Hello, I'm JW, and once again with the CNC construction, and today just mounting the various components on this plate, which is what basically fits in the back of the large cabinet. So I'm going to mount various components on the front of this. This then screws in the back of the cabinet, and then of course we can actually connect the wires and things to that afterwards. Now I'm going to put the larger components on the back panel, such as the power supplies and the inverter and so on. And then the smaller stuff like the actual controller board and whatever, I'm actually going to mount on the front cover of the panel. That's the one that's actually hinged. And that basically gives all the main stuff on the back and the 24 volt stuff on the front. So here is the back plate. It's just galvanised steel. And I've already drilled various holes in here for the various components. And this just fixes in the back panel with these side tabs here. Just basically hooks over some threads in the bottom of the case and then a nut fixes on top. Now most of these things just have tabs on with holes, so it's just a question of drilling through and then a screw goes through and a nut secures it on the back. So this here is the main switch, that's basically used to turn on and off the entire system. And although the switch is on the back panel, it's one of these that has a actual extension rod that comes out and obviously fixes it with the switch on the front panel. And it also means that when the front panel is closed, it actually locks in the back of the switch, so that when the switch is on, you can't actually open the panel with the thing powered up. And I've got here the small power supply, the 24 volt version. Again, it's just got like a tab at the top and the bottom corners, so that will just fit on there like that. The contactor here, which again is to use to switch on the motors and the inverter, and this will also wire into the emergency stop. So also you can switch it off in case of some sort of problem. And again, it's just got tabs there. It does have a DIN mounting rail thing, but just going to use the bolts in this case, so that just sits there. And the inverter, again, it's just got holes in the four corners, or little slots at the bottom of that one, and that will just sit up over here. Again, plenty of space at the bottom because that's where all the cables and whatever will connect. And then finally is the other power supply, the 48 volt high current version, and this one actually has threaded holes in the back, so just going to drill obviously holes here and then screws come through and actually thread into these, so slightly different arrangement, but nevertheless that will just go on the side over there. So we've basically got all the main voltage stuff on here, obviously with the two power supplies, contactor switch and the inverter. And the way it arranges in the cabinet is that on this side we've got the actual cables coming in, hence the space at the bottom here to allow room for those. This side will actually be where the fans are. They're coming in this side, going across all this stuff, and then of course out through a vent on either the side or possibly the top. So I fixed all those things to the actual panel, and you can see they're all securely attached to the panel there. And this actually hangs this way in the back of the cabinet, so sort of in a vertical arrangement. And next of course we need to have a look at the cabinet, because as well as this back panel, a whole load of stuff needs to be attached on the front, and also there's those two end plates on the left and right sides. So on the other side of the room here, so this is the actual control cabinet here, and you see I've cut various holes in it already, ready for various things to be attached to that. And I've just opened the front here, and we can see in the back there it's completely empty. That's basically where that panel with the equipment attaches. And then in the end here, and also over here, there's two end plates. Now on the right hand side over here, we're going to be installing this one, which I've again drilled and installed various items into. And we've got some wiring attached on the back. So at the bottom here, we've just got 6 of these 20mm cable glands, and these are just the type you just put your cable through, tighten down, it just seals around that. So 6 of those, 4 of which will be for the stepper motors, so 1 for each of those. Another one here just for the spindle, and then the 6th one will be for the limit switches and the emergency stop and things outside of the cabinet. So 6 of those, and in the middle here we've got an Ethernet socket, and that actually goes through to another socket on the back, so we can connect the computer from here just into the back of the computer, which will basically be on the cabinet above. And on the inside just have another one from here to the little control board inside. And put that there, it's also a bit neater than just sort of hacking a hole through and shoving the wire through. And above this we've got a fuse here, which then supplies these 2 outlets, And these are for the computer as well, so it's one for the computer, one for the monitor. And that means we can then turn the computer on and off with the control switch on the front of the cabinet, so it literally does the whole lot. Don't have to mess around with separate power leads and switches and all of that. And on the back here, so these are just empty holes, and that's a socket. And we've got here the actual outlets here. So mains power coming in via this, or these three cores here. Neutral goes straight to the two outlets here. Live goes via the fuse in the centre, and then earth just goes straight over. Now these actually have tabs on, but I've just basically soldered the wires on there, and then just put some transparent heat shrink over the three terminals, so fairly straightforward arrangement there. And the fuse holder actually had two sort of outlets, one on each side. They're both common together, so it's just basically powering in the centre, and then the wires come off across to each side. And we've used some non-standard colouring here because it's inside a cabinet, so we've basically got purple for neutral, orange for line, and solid green from the 1970s for the earth. And obviously these ends will then connect in the cabinet to the other equipment. Now on the other side of the cabinet, which is basically this side or the left side looking from the front, then we have this panel which is the same as that one, only it's got different stuff in. Two more of those cable glands there, the same 20mm variety, and again those just go straight through to the back. This is actually where the mains power will go in. There's actually going to be two separate power leads going in. And then on the front here we've got two fans, and these have got the foam filters behind, as we saw in the introduction as well. These just clip off for later cleaning or whatever. So two of those. And on the back here we've got two actual fans there, which of course will just rotate there. And these are actually drawing air in from the outside, so the airflow is coming through. Obviously the filters there to minimise the amount of dust coming in. These are 24-volt fans, and I've just attached this grey and yellow wiring on the back. That will be for the 24-volt DC supply. Again, both just commoned together there. And it is just bolted through the panel there with some fastenings at the corners. And then so the fronts there just clip over the top, so you can just pop those off, clean the filters as and when needed. And so this one will actually go in the left side of the cupboard here. So we've got the wires going through and the air coming in on that side. Now for the rest of the cabinet, so this is the front panel. It's actually open there. You can see inside the general cupboard there, various components where just trial fitting there, and the tube of heatsink there, which is leaking out all over the surface. So basically what we've got here then, that big hole on the right there is actually going to be for a second panel which will mount in the front, and that's where most of the switches and other things will be installed. And in the centre here we've got some holes drilled and a centre one in the middle for the on and off switch, which basically turn off the power to the whole equipment. Hole underneath there which is for the emergency stop, so again that will just go through and secure on the other side. Where it says PCB there, then that's obviously for the little circuit board, and I put these plastic standoffs through, so again the board just sits over those, and then just a nut on the top to secure it in position, so one at each corner. And then over here I've got two more standoffs here and here, and this is where the actual motor drives will be mounted. Now these are actually going to be mounted vertically on the heatsinks, so there'll be two here and then two over here. Now on the top of the cupboard here, so I've already started to assemble some of those components together. So basically we've got the heatsink there with the little drives attached on the top, and then a similar one there, just one attached, the other one is yet to fix on there. And also in the top here, if we just move some of this stuff, you can see we've actually got another hole there, and that's essentially for the air outlet. So bearing in mind air is going to be coming in at the left side from over there through the cabinet, and it's actually going to come out through that hole in the top, and that's actually going to be another one of those fan grills with the foam filter. And again that will just fix over the top, and then we just snap the cover over that to prevent any dust getting in. And although that's an air outlet, I'm going to put the filter over anyhow because it obviously prevents dust getting in when the thing is turned off. Bearing in mind it's obviously on a vertical surface. And the computer actually sits up here between these two plastic things here, and I've arranged the position of this so basically the air coming out of here will go through the computer and then out of the top of that, so it provides a bit of airflow through the computer as well. Now these are the motor drives, and I've already assembled this pair, and we'll just complete this one in a moment. So we've got the drives on the top here, just screws going through, there's one underneath the terminal blocks. those actually come through on the back here, and it just happens I've got these particular size nuts here which actually will wedge in between the vanes of the heatsink, so that once basically they've been pulled down they will actually just sort of wedge themselves in place, which is useful because then you can basically put them in, pull the nut in, and then take the actual screw out the other side with the nut remaining in place, so then you can mount the thing on the other side. And again, same over here. A couple more here just to attach to this strip, which is just a bit of right angle aluminium, and a couple of holes here, one near each end. And then the idea is that these plastic standoffs here, this will fit over the top of here, so that'll be on that side, and then we've got wires coming off the two ends of those. And then the other one, which is this one, that will actually fit around this way. Yep, like that. And again, then we've got the two drives there. This will just bolt down underneath, and I've actually got a piece here, which is this black piece here, which will just go between the two at the top. Basically just hold those two together so the whole thing is reasonably secured. And then wires will also come off the two ends of these, so no problems with that. And I've left this large gap in the centre because if you have a look on the end of this one, you can see here there's actually a little adjustment screw which will need to be accessed, so that will allow us to just get in there with the adjuster tool, and the same of course on both sides. So this drive here just needs to be attached to this, and basically I've just have drilled all 4 holes, but it seems that 2 is actually plenty sufficient just to secure that in position. And of course put it the right way around, it's always a helpful start. So that will just bolt down on here. This is a metal surface here, and obviously this is as well, so I'm going to put some of the heatsink compound onto this just to go between the two there. And then the pins here just have the terminal block, which is a screw type of arrangement, so just put your wires in here and tighten down, and it's just basically a press fit over the various pins there, obviously once we've put the screw in place. Now I've already pulled the nut through from the back, so that's actually wedged into the vanes on the other side. So I'll just apply some of the heatsink compound to the back of this. Now, I'm not just going to be using these at their full power, but nevertheless this is going to get a certain amount of heat coming out of it, because this is basically what's switching the motors and actually driving them, so a certain amount of heat will be emitted. So heating on the back there, and then we'll just hook this one under the corner here, which I've already put in position, and then we just need to put the other screw down through here, and because there's that nut which I've already basically put in underneath, then it will hopefully line up, and then we can just tighten that into position. So that's now pulling down on the nut at the back, and of course we'll just tighten this one at the back corner as well. Now, so these only need to be attached here, they don't have to be ultra tight, so as long as the thing is actually pulled down onto the aluminium heatsink, that's pretty much all we need. So that's reasonably attached, and you can see the nuts on the back there, so they're not totally pulled down, but to say that nut is actually wedged there, so it's perfectly secure. Again, that's not going to be flying off of there or anything. So we'll just put the terminal strip back in place, and so that literally just pushes over the pins on the end here. And now that's ready for the connections to go in afterwards. Now the next thing is to put the panel in the back here, at least temporarily. I have actually had this in here already, so I know it does actually fit. And it's basically these hooks which just go over those threaded things in the back. So just get that put in place. And that's just these nuts which go over there to hold it in position. Now the next thing we need to do is to attach the main switch. And this is the actual actuator part here, the sort of red and yellow thing. And this goes on the front of the cupboard here. So you've just got the hole for the middle to go, and then the 4 screws which are actually underneath the yellow plastic. That will just go on there like that. But this is only the part that actually operates the switch. the switch itself is actually back here in the back of the cupboard. So we need some way of getting from here to the front, and this of course is supplied with all these components. So we've got this rod here which is just a square section, and it's got this fixed on piece at the back here, and this is what goes into the switch at the back here. So this goes in here, and as the orange thing there says, it says push, so basically just press that orange piece in, that goes in, and then that rod is now locked into the switch. And now what goes on the front of this, we've got this white piece here, little screw there just to secure it in position. That goes over the square section like that. This does have a marking for top and whatever, so we'll make sure that's in the correct alignment. And this does have some adjustment in the sort of forward and back direction. I've actually trimmed this down already to a suitable length, so it doesn't obviously poke out the front of the cabinet. Now, the first thing to do to get this switch installed is to make sure this is in the off position, and I've already just checked that at the back. So that's the off position there, and then that would be the on, like that. So off position, we need to get this aligned with this plate. See the two notches there and the two sort of pegs there. When in the off position, this needs to be able to slide over this, so of course we're going to open the cupboard when it's in the off position, and then when it's in the on position that will of course rotate and then not be able to obviously go over that. So keep the off position there. This piece actually, again, it's got top marked here as well, so all sort of lines up there. That actually goes on the back of here, and then we've got these small screws here which come through from the other side, just go through these threaded holes here. And this piece is what goes on the other side, and this is basically the holder for the actual switch assembly there. So this is on the back, it's got a sort of rubber piece on the back as well to grip onto the cabinet. Screw will come through from the other side, like that, and then that will go through the panel hole, and then this will clamp down on the back, so basically got this sort of clamped onto the metal panel in the middle. Now this plastic piece does have a certain way round, and it's got these two holes here at the bottom, and they need to line up of course with the holes here in the outer piece like that, and that's basically where you would put your padlock through to lock it in the off position. So just need to make sure the holes are at the bottom, and again this is actually marked with the top there. I may not be able to see that, but again that obviously goes towards the top. So just place that screw through there. That will then come through, and then we just need to put that through into the threaded nut there. So that's the front piece all attached there, just 4 screws, and again a black piece on the back which lines up with this piece here. Now all it remains then is to put the front part on the switch here. First of all, we've got this little plate which basically just shows through the little window in the side of the switch here. And we've got a choice here between 0 and 1, or in fact the words on and off, and I think we'll just go for the actual words in this case. So we'll just pick the off wording there, so we'll just slot that in position. Off here being right because the switch is actually like this, and that of course off shows through the window. When you turn it, it shows through the top there. Now this yellow piece is literally just places over the top like that, and it just snaps over. And then we've got this black bit, which is what actually interfaces with the switch on the back, and then this black piece here goes in the back of the red switch there. It's got a key on the side which also fits into the slot on there like that, and then the single screw in the front is what holds the whole thing in position. Now this actually goes in from the back, so we'll place that through from the back like that. Bearing in mind this is in the off position, so we want to make sure that this is lined up with off, and the slot on this is actually on the right hand side, so if we just turn that so we get that lined up like that, goes in there, and then just kind of tightening up the screw on the front, and that will secure the whole lot into position. Now to get the length, what I've done, I've just closed the cabinet using the key here for the 2 actual locks there. This is actually matched up on the back, and I'm just going to push the white piece as far forward as it will go, which is about there, and then I'm just going to mark inside with this pen like that, and then if we open the thing again, and then release this from the actual switch at the back. And then on the side here, see there's that mark I just put there, so all we're going to do is tighten this up using the screw so it lines up with that mark. So that's now tightened down, so that's now locked onto that. And I'll just place this back in, again getting the top piece in the correct alignment. So it just goes in there. So that snaps in like that. And then with the switch obviously in the off position, and close over the cabinet like that. That will then turn the switch on and off as we want. With it in the off position, and of course it will open and close, no problem at all. But if we turn it to the on position, then we can't actually open the cabinet because it's locked on the switch there. So even with these undone, we can't get the thing open until we turn it off, and then it will open no problem. Now the final bit here is this massive hole, and I've got this panel here, which is a composite panel. It's basically a thin piece of aluminium, and it's got a black plastic core, and then it's another piece of very thin aluminium on the other side. This happens to be two different colours. We've got a gold here and a more sort of a bronzy look on that side. And the idea here is this will mount on the outside, sort of in there like that, and then the various switches and indicators and controls can actually be drilled through this panel, which is going to be much easier and somewhat neater than trying to do it through this rather heavy gauge steel. And it also means that this can then be assembled as a single unit and then fitted in the cabinet, rather than trying to drill lots of holes in here and then trying to sort of fit them from the front and the back and all of that. So when it's actually complete, which we'll look at in a later video, this will obviously be closed here, and then this panel, either the gold or the bronze piece, will just basically fix over here with the various switches and things in the front like that. And then so this can always be taken out and amended or revised or whatever as required. And the rest of the front here, I've just got little studs there from the things fixed on the reverse. And the other thing here is just the emergency stop button. Here is the button here, and it's the same as in those ones with the boxes, except it's just a single piece. Now to mount this one, this top piece unscrews in the opposite direction to the arrows. Those are what normally you would just turn to reset, so that actual button will unscrew and remove. Underneath there we've got this metal ring, which again unscrews and removes. That's just a plastic plate. And then we have the switch itself. And this actually has an adjustable piece here at the bottom as well, so you can adjust the positioning for various thicknesses of panel. This is a fairly thick panel as these go, so we'll use that like that. And then it's simply a question of this goes in the hole on the back here. Our little plastic piece goes over the front, and then the metal ring here goes over the top of that. So just thread that on. So that's there, and then finally just the red plastic knob just threads onto the front of that. So then it's pressed to switch off, and then just twist to reset. Now the idea with all of this is that this switch here will basically turn on and off the main power to everything. So when this is in the off position, nothing has power, including the computer, and obviously the motors and the spindle and all the control circuits, the whole lot. So that's literally as if you just actually unplugged the thing and disconnected the power completely. That can actually be locked in the off position as well. And then when in the on position like this, that will provide power to the control circuits and whatever, but not, crucially, the motors and things. And to get those started, there will be some additional buttons here which will basically switch in the contactor. And then if you were to press the emergency stop here, or one of the others on the machine itself, that will drop out the contactor, disconnect power to the motors and whatever, but still leave the actual control circuits and the computer still running. So that's it for this particular video, and so obviously next time we'll have a look at the wiring and so on to get the various components in there connected together. And until then, thanks for watching.